Hello, welcome back to Aether. I just lost it for a second. This is Tommy and Paul from just adjusting the camera angle. And this is Tommy and Paul from sakasa.ca. And again, let's start from the top. Welcome back to Aether. And so today, it's part 20 of How to Heal with a Psychic, and episode 62. Today's topic is, what is it? Shifting perspective to gain everything. Okay, so yeah, as you can probably tell that we are we didn't prep for this one at all.
We're shifting gears here fast.
Yeah, Paul came up with this topic, and he showed it to me as like, okay, so it's not just this shift in perspective to gain everything. He showed me more like that email contact that he showed me, and it's like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Don't know how we gonna do this.
I didn't expect you to get all teared up. You started crying when I showed you this topic.
Yeah, when I read the email that it's going out to everyone, I cried.
Yeah.
So it might be very emotional. We might get frustrated and angry. We don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Because there's been a lot of heavy duty work on this one.
Like that, the hidden topic or hidden title is this is a life married to empath, right? So yeah, here we go. Go ahead.
I wasn't only going to focus on that though.
Okay.
There's more to it, but that's a good example.
Okay.
That was a good example.
Okay.
But anyway, but as always, questions and comments are welcome. So anyone who's joined us here, please send in your comments and questions. It really does enhance the experience for everybody, and we get to address your specific thing that way. So whatever you want to know about. So perspective changing, right? So the basic thing about this is that things that seem to be true are often only true from that one perspective, right? It's not an ultimate truth, right? And the weird thing about this whole thing is just, oh my God, it can seem so real, it can seem so true and so important and so dramatic and your life can feel like it's on the line about this one truth that you see. And it isn't. None of that is true. Seriously, right? Why is the universe like that? I don't know. Just being honest. But like whoever designed the universe to be like that, and sit down and have a little chat, because oh my God, it's so frustrating. So and it, like in the email that I sent out, it talks about just one example, like, we had our differences over time. We weren't all on the same page from day one. We actually, it's kind of in our relationship, we did kind of things backwards, where most people, they have a honeymoon period and then there's the roughness after that. We went straight to the rough stuff, like right in there. Yeah.
Really, really rough.
Yeah. Intense stuff. Stuff that only an empath psychic would bring up. Like nobody else would even know it's there because I keep it all so well hidden. Right? It's like The stuff I went through earlier in life, no joke, was pretty. There was some rough stuff. You guys probably, if you're following this, you probably heard about it. I buried it, right? Like any man knows how to do, right? Buried it, move on, forget about it. So then when I'm talking with you and you just freak out, right? So like you'll start, you got so upset, right? And I'm like, what? Huh? I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything. You're like, oh no, it's not your words. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't get it, right? So you're like, there's something there, and you didn't know how to put words on it at that time because you didn't even know you were a psychic at that time, right? That early in our relationship.
So you're talking about
perspective.
You're talking about earlier in the relationship. Is that the topic we're talking about?
No, that's just an example.
Okay.
Like how I would get, and you'd see things there, and you'd say something was there, and and I didn't see it, right? And I didn't understand why you were getting upset. I had to figure it out, and we had a big fight about it. But eventually, I would figure it out that you're talking about how I'm feeling, for one, right? So I'm like, from my perspective, I'm doing just fine, right? There's nothing wrong. I'm keeping myself, like I normally do. I'm just dealing with my frustrations and I keep them under the surface, and nobody knows about them except me. Just keep a poker face. But you're like, no, it's not your words, right? It's how you feel, and I'm like, I don't get that, but I did figure it out over time, right? But we had to have the fight first, and I thought I was right because I thought that I was doing everything right. Right? I was behaving just fine. And you were upset out of nowhere, from my perspective, from my normal man perspective. You're upset out of nowhere, right? And so that, to me, that made you wrong, right? Because there was a big, huge fight. You were upset. I didn't do anything overt, right? Like
it made me wrong from your perspective.
From my perspective, yeah. Right? So that's why
pretty much everything I was doing was wrong to you.
At that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because your way is the right way.
Yeah. Of course it is, right? Who's she trying to kid? That was how we ended up in those fights, because I had my perspective and I was convinced I was right. You had that perspective, your perspective, and because you knew that I was coming from a negative place, even though on the surface it seemed fine, right? That's one example. There's lots of examples we could go into about how we had those kind of fights where I had this perspective that it was one way and you had a different perspective. We would sometimes really go at it. I would take myself away from the situation at a certain point, and I would think it out. And this is the critical thing. At a certain point, I would step away from my heavy feelings, that emotional stuff, come down from that, and then I could have a chance, right? While I was in the emotional stuff, I couldn't, there's no way, right? But then once I climbed down from my emotional thing, then I could look at this and I could do something very important. We call it stepping back. How would you describe that process of stepping back? What is that?
I don't know. It's kind of, you are, to me, you're generalizing. So I'm like, I thought you were going to talk about this recent thing.
Or which recent one? I don't know.
The very recent one that
okay.
That I thought that.
If you want to talk about that, that's cool.
That.
We're going to go into a therapy session now. It sounds I don't know.
I know that was because fits perfectly
Okay.
in what you said in the email. That's why I cried.
That's why you're crying because of that?
Yeah. And so, like, but if you don't want to go there, sure, that's fine. But it's kind of general, so it's
You decide for helping the audience here to connect to what we're trying to get at. If it's important, then
it's
go
good
for it.
to pick one thing.
Okay,
So
go for it
it's
then.
more
Yep.
like a, so you can start share what how it, I don't know how it started, and probably accident.
From the car accident.
Yeah, from car.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the
Yeah.
car accident, and
Yeah.
it triggered your fear.
Yeah. So
Right.
if you don't know from just very briefly, we just had a recent pretty serious car accident.
Mhm.
We were rear-ended. We were stopped at the stoplight, and we have 4 kids. There were 3 of our kids were in the car with us, and the whole back end of our vehicle was crushed. We were pushed into the intersection. It was dark and rainy night. The other cars could have come and hit us in the intersection. So I was out there waving around, and like I'm just like, oh my god, I could get hit any second here, and that could be it. So it was pretty intense. Okay. And luckily we didn't have to go to the hospital, and you know, the other driver didn't have to go. And that's fantastic.
You can keep going.
Yeah. So out of that, I got into this funk, right? Like for the next, it was almost 2 weeks, and I just kind of spaced out. Like I was in physical pain again. The fibromyalgia that I thought I'd gotten over came back, right? And I was in this physical pain, and muscles are all tense, and I can't relax, and I can't, and I'm in a funk. Like I feel down, and all that kind of stuff. And I did not want to admit that I was back in trauma. Right? I wasn't like trying to deny it. I was just like trying my best to not make a big deal out of it. And just trying to roll with it. Right? But it was there. Right?
It was like a day, maybe next day of a car accident, you were fine. Everybody like fine as fine as we can feel.
Yeah.
Right? And then
seems okay.
Yeah, like, and then it's some soreness and tenderness and stiffness were there, but we were fine. And then we stayed that way. And is that second day, third day, you had more pain, and then you were aware, and then you weren't in a good mood, but you were still aware that you were not good mood. And then I was okay. Okay, you can just we can go through this, and now you were doing some stuff on your own to release pain. And then you felt a little bit better, and then you went back. I don't know how many times that you went back and forth a little bit. You came out of it, and you had pain, and you felt better, and then again you had pain, right? A few times, and then the big one came.
So I want you to take over in the story from there, because
it's just my
you're wanting to
perspective.
you want to connect this to shifting perspective. So I'm
okay. So it's so part one of this episode is from my perspective what happened, and then you can do part two from your perspective what happened. So like it was, you were going in and out, pain and anger and frustration, and then struggling Paul to feeling better next day, and then that happened, going back and forth, and then earlier this week, Sunday today, so maybe I don't know, Monday, Tuesday ish. You are in a different space, and then just or you working in a here with the computer, and it's just I can feel the energy. It's just dark, and then I don't remember what we said. I was saying something to you, and to me, uh, just before we start the conversation, that's already I can feel the anger as coming out of you. And then, but I had to say something. I said something, and it's just that it's like I don't know. Every word is like attacking me, and you are. I can tell you are staying calm and being nice. It here, that's what you are thinking, and but every word is got the negative twist, like what
When I get into that mode, there's this is part of my healing from PTSD. This is what she's getting into right now. Is there's different Pauls, and so I think that George has some good comments here. So thanks, George, for your comments.
Curious soul?
Yeah,
that's George.
I think so. No,
The curious soul. It's been.
I think that's if I'm remembering that from the email. I think that's George.
Okay.
Let us know, Curious Soul, if we got that right. We got the right name here. And thanks for your comments here. So, and that's helping us with the direct conversation. When I'm in when I'm going into that PTSD, Paul, right? That's a very different person than healthy, healed Paul. Authentic me, right? Or more, at least more authentic me, right? Not PTSD me. And then you're talking about PTSD me there coming into the picture. That it's, from my perspective, I don't see it. You
don't see it.
I don't. When I go into that,
you think it's the same Paul.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like here I am one moment, and the next moment is I'm in the other space, right? Yeah. But it's not like drifting back and forth all day long. What I just mean is that certain situations can come up in like 1 week, right? Or this. All the stages I've been going through healing over these years, things come forward, right? And I'm in that space, and I don't notice. You
don't know. Oh, the whole stage has changed.
Yeah.
Whole the energy has changed, and you don't notice. Yeah. Right. And like sometimes you catch yourself like you're in pain and you're carrying anger. That one, you're not in that space. You still like the healed pole.
You mean when I shift into a negative mood, but I'm aware that I'm in a negative mood? That's not the one we're talking about right now.
That's not what you.
Those are three different poles.
So 3 different stages.
Yeah.
Right. So one is healed and happy and relaxed, and the other one is in pain and angry but aware. So this is like in this area still. Yeah. You're in pain but you're still aware. Yeah. And this one is a tricky one.
The PTSD one is way over here.
And then in really dark, really angry, and he's not aware. And so everything happens is other people's fault, which is me, right? And Satomi is angry, and that's why I'm frustrated. And then she is this and she is that, and like, but wait, you throwing me those negative words. Of course, I get uncomfortable, I get frustrated, and
Mm.
you're the one who's pushing me, but then you see me drifting away, and I'm going away.
Mhm.
You don't see yourself pushing and attacking with words, and that's why I cannot stay close to you. It's like and then if I back up, you're like, this is the end of the world. Like the game of Othello, right? I explained to you before, like a black, what's it called? The coin token or whatever.
The token. So when you're playing Othello, you have those tokens that are black on one side and white on the other side.
And then so you play, so you have black, right? Some dark, painful day, and then you have white, good days, right? And then you hit the black again, and all those white days.
The way I look back at it, I think everything's black.
Everything is black.
Yes.
It all turned into black.
Yes.
Right. That's a trauma mode.
Yes.
And everything. It's this is the end of the world. And then Satomi is finishing this world. I'm not exaggerating here.
So that's
and I'm the villain.
That's very reasonable. How basically how things went until I was able to get past it, right? Until I got myself out of it. I was able to heal the trauma myself. I didn't need your help.
I was.
That's actually is that the first time?
Maybe.
It might be the first time I was able to heal from the trauma of the car accident on my own. So that's progress. I'm pretty psyched about that. I still did put you through a little bit of rough period.
A little bit. Oh, thank you. You want to see the message you gave me? That's like this is the end of the world, and then you are putting, like you Satomi, are putting me into this situation, and you have to do something, otherwise this is the end.
There's a direct reasoning as to why I think it's you. I don't want to go into it today so much, but you're saying like you're backing away. I don't see that I'm pushing you away, and I don't see that I'm being negative. You're backing away because I'm negative. Then when I see you backing away from my perspective, that is you starting the issue, because I don't feel like I don't notice that I've changed, right? I'm like, I'm Paul here, I'm Paul there, but and I of course I'm all good, right? So so when I see you backing away, that looks like the start of the issue to me, right? That's the only part I see. And so it looks to me like you're initiating and you're being negative. Like you're seeing me in a negative way, right? All of a sudden, like, where's this coming from? You're seeing me in a negative way now. What? I don't get it. And since I don't get it from my perspective, it's totally a different experience. It's just a very different experience. And it's very weird that I don't notice. Because other times, like you're saying, the third Paul that you mentioned there briefly, there's authentic Paul, then there's Paul who's having, like a allergic reaction. I ate something, right? So I'm having some body reaction that's creating some pain in my body, and it makes me irritable when I have a reaction, right? And that Paul, even though I'm kind of basically my authentic self, I'm having a hard time. I'm in pain, but I know it. And I'm aware of it, and I tell you, and we got a rule where I basically have to tell her, because then I'm outing myself, letting her know that I know, right? So and then we can work together that way, because if I out myself, then I'm not being that other Paul.
And then you're not
the
pushing,
PTSD one. I'm not seeing all the negative stuff as you being. not seeing you in a negative light.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's me,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm owning up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we still didn't get back to that. My earlier question, though, that's very good for changing perspective, right? There's an understanding there.
How did you do that?
How did I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
That's the whole point, right? About this episode, kind of.
well, we were just going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going into how,
Okay.
because that is a very difficult thing to ask me to on the spot to say how I did that.
Mm-hmm.
What I can say is that I didn't let myself go into the really, really, really dark negative stuff. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I knew what that was, and I checked it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like checking it like in playing chess. So I interrupted that.
Mm-hmm.
So curious soul, pain from car accidents will trigger depressive episodes. My experience, it took me time to figure out, shift your focus, especially you had to the previous emotional trauma. That's perfectly exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
I actually didn't know that about the car accident thing. It would affect me that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of surprised me, but I didn't go deeply into the negative. So I was able to do that. And I was able to meditate and stuff like that, and do a little exercise, that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
to help work through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was number one. And number two, there was still stuff to work on, and I wasn't aware what it was. So I actually talked to a friend,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't have to say really anything.
Mm-hmm.
All I did was talk about what was going on, and then it just all hit me. I just started, I knew I was processing grief, because I didn't realize it at first, because I was trying to make nothing out of it. It's like, no, we're just going to keep rolling on and not make a big deal out of the car accident, and we'll be fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I was affected, and I needed to process the grief of what happened because of the shock, because I did see the kids and you in the car, and there was all the twisted metal and everything, and that got me, right? That was hard. And so I needed to go through and process the shock and the grief and the anger and the grief, and go through those stages of healing. When I was talking with my friend, it just came out. Just because she was curious about, like, what had happened. I started just talking about it, and it was just, I guess I had just gotten myself ready to process the grief enough that when I was talking with her, I just started crying.
So grief means like it's like you didn't lose anyone, so it's not that kind of grief, but that you could have.
I could have.
That's
what I was doing.
That's what. So it's just imagination, illusion. Like it didn't happen, but it could have, and it's got
somehow I was processing it like it had happened, like I had lost you, because I saw you there, and it was a situation for like those long minutes waiting for the emergency vehicles to arrive. I was trying to direct traffic and stuff like that and not get run over. That ended up being like I was experiencing the loss somehow, right, of the family.
I understand. Like I felt like many times that was really, really, really close, especially for the youngest one. Like if we had different vehicle, little smaller one, like and then I catch myself, okay, don't go there. Right? It didn't happen. It was good. If I keep going there, I'm gonna experience same thing.
Because
right?
it was so close to them. They were the ones closest to the back of the vehicle.
Then but it didn't happen, and we were protected, and we are so grateful. I shift many times. I shifted myself from going there because it was easy to go there, right? Because really, it was really close. So I know what you are saying partially, but I was because we live different lives, so I was able to shift before I go in, right? I catch myself and okay, I don't need to go there. Everybody's here, and I'm happy. I'm so grateful, and we're all so protected, and
Mm-hmm.
I am so grateful. So
Mm-hmm.
I shifted myself many times. It happened many times this last couple weeks. Is that right? But I know like some, and then I understood like some people they uh, how it becomes trauma for them.
Mm-hmm.
I was experiencing
Mm-hmm.
like oh, this is gonna be scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people, lots of friends said that must have been so scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have time to be scared. It just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then next second, I checked everybody. Everybody was fine, not that injured, and everybody's eyes open and fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't have time to feel scared.
Mm-hmm.
And then luckily, kids they're okay. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
get scared.
Mm-hmm.
And but afterwards, we could have start
Mm-hmm.
start making up a story. It could have been like that.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been that like this, and then you can go into this
Mm-hmm.
scary scene, and then
Mm-hmm.
the grief,
Mm-hmm.
and then anger, and
Mm-hmm.
those things. And I understood how people can get stuck in that pain, trauma,
Yeah.
right? And then also when I'm driving, I have been always like a not trusting everybody around me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not healthy to trust everybody. Everybody's gonna stop at the red light, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust them in a healthy way, right?
Defensive driving.
Yeah, like I check and make sure okay they're
Mm-hmm.
stopping so I can go, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am doing it way more, like not trusting
Mm-hmm.
anyone at
Mm-hmm.
all,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they're stopping, like I'm going straight intersection, and a car in front of nothing coming from the other direction and trying to turn left,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're stopped. And I'm still like, are you sure you stop? You're not moving. You're not moving. You're not moving.
Yeah.
I'm going straight. I'm just going straight, but still watching that car and making sure they're not going to start moving. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a little bit over, doing a little bit more than before, and then okay, this could turn into trauma, and this could tense myself up, and I'm kind of analyzing myself, so I'm like catching myself and analyzing it, and so I don't go in deeper,
Mm-hmm.
right? But at the same time, I can see how other people have trouble after the accident,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's something that I am experiencing, and then you have some difficult past, so it can trigger you even more easily.
Yeah,
Right?
it definitely resonated with my old trauma
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
It's
That
not
was-
like a car accident, but it's other trauma. It's
Yeah.
like this, anything could end the world,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
So we've got a couple of comments here. I believe that Curious Soul here has a good comment. It's going to be hard to read. I'll put it up here though anyway. I believe that Satomi helped you heal by her presence, and by the way she responded to your pain. Instead of reacting, she was compassionate at times based on her human limits. And I think
my
that's
human limits.
I mean, I think that's completely correct because you this is the way you always respond to stuff. You basically, if you can't deal with it, you at least don't make it worse, right? At the very least, you don't interact with it in a way like to any logical person, it wouldn't make it worse. For me, I see you pulling away.
Yeah.
That is what triggers me in a different way. That's another part of my PTSD thing.
Or if I stayed, it's gonna be the same thing.
I
It's
know.
gonna trigger
Yeah.
you. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I say this, I don't say this. I stay here, I don't stay here. I give you this, I don't give you this. Doesn't matter. It's just and in the same angry pole. So then I would choose to stay away. Of course, because staying with him, it's not helping and it's hurting me directly. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
But you do also provide other than that, you're providing a compassionate environment that does lead to healing eventually. If I don't, get all negative about it. So, and D. Mullins has a great comment here. So, this is so healing for me to get more clarification of my own experiences with my dear husband who suffered from NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, but past this year, leaving much confusion of his behavior. Yeah, so absolutely, D. That's a complex situation. There's a lot going on behind there. If you want to follow up with us and discuss that further, we're absolutely open to it. But yes, relationships are not easy. Kind of like what we're talking about here. We can talk about it, but it's taken a lot of work to get there. And this shifting perspective thing is such an integral part of that work. That's why we wanted to focus on that today.
Yeah.
Is that being able to move to it's hard to describe even when we're having that that situation, then being able to come down from that and then step back. So let's come back to that. Let's circle back to that now and talk about stepping back. How would you describe stepping back?
Like you?
Yeah, or anybody, yourself, anybody.
For me, stepping back is like coming out of myself and see the whole picture. Right? Instead of I want this way, I did this and I didn't do this. I said this and they said this to me and they did to me and they treated me this way or that way. Is not instead of looking at just from my point of view, I step out of myself and then look at the whole picture. I think that's what I do, and it's more like I'm stepping into everybody's everybody's point of view, like why he said that, why she did that, right? And I go in there and then look at things, same thing from other people's point of view. That's what I do, and I'm probably just being an empath. It's more natural and easy to do that, and I it's not like somebody told me to do it, and that's what I've been doing as far as I can go back. That's what I've been doing. Right? That's
a perfect way to describe it. I couldn't put it in better words, I don't think. So I'm not even going to try. But I just wanted to add that because what Dee's mentioning here about dealing with someone who's got a negative relationship going on with her. I was in that kind of situation myself in the past, dealing with people who had that kind of narcissistic tendencies. I'll just say it that way. And when the stepping back part, that was natural to me as well. Even though I had to learn how to do that as well. And it wasn't always perfect. I don't think at it, that's for sure. But I would try to look at the situation from their perspective. But if they're narcissistic, it's a negative perspective that they're coming from, right? So that it can be very painful to do that work. It can be helpful, but it can also be problematic because if you're like me in that situation, you can then start beating up on yourself, right? So if you're looking at it from their perspective, you're empathizing with their point of view, but they're abusive. And if you're looking at yourself from an abusive perspective, and if you don't not very careful with that, that can become an abusive relationship with yourself, which is what happened to me.
So yeah.
So that's just to be careful with this stepping back thing. It can get into that, but it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, it's
when I do it with you.
Yeah,
when I step back with you, I just see this situation.
Yeah,
right.
So
there's nothing negative.
It's not like you are not taking the ownership how they feel. That's you want to make sure it's not happening.
You have to automatically. You have to avoid automatically agreeing with that person.
Yeah, that's
with their perspective.
It's just you just looking at the movie from their seat.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You're not going into the movie and receiving all the attacks and those things. No, I'm just switching seats and looking at the scene from different angle, right? So that you want to have the distance and boundary for yourself, so you are not putting yourself right into that pain. That's for sure. You want to do it, and then you like this last recent one, that the difficult one. Hi Jane, thank you for leaving comment. So last this recent one, you are so in deep attacking. I'm gonna say attacking me, and it's like I'm the fault. I did everything bad, and then his world is falling apart because of me. That's pretty much what the message was. And but so, and I left him alone because, like I said, it doesn't matter what I do or what I don't. It upsets him and makes the situation worse, right? And then just having some space, and then just hoping that he's gonna calm down enough so he can step back. That you've been doing it more and more, right? And then this time he did it, and I don't know, it was one morning or one afternoon after I came home. The energy was different. Okay, this is a good sign.
You know right away. That's the thing about we're going to empaths. Like, she walks in the door and she knows things are different, right? So, that works for me and against me.
No, it works for you both ways. It's your perspective. It works against you or not. Takes it or not. Right?
Yeah, I know. So, so that stepping back and seeing things from the other person's point of view is such a critical part of this whole thing. And it's the key for taking the next step, which is, okay, if the other person sees that this way, then maybe I start to question some of the things that I did, right? Some of my reasoning, is it sound, right? if I see it from her perspective, then I can start to break this down. If I'm sort of calm myself down a little bit, and I step back, I'm shifting my perspective. And when I'm doing that, seeing things from her seat, and then I can look at myself that way from the movie from the other point of view, without putting myself emotionally in that space, that person's, and owning that person's
that
beliefs,
that's not
right?
gonna help.
Right? You know, all the blame and stuff that might be coming along with it. Forget that stuff. Just simply try to look at it from their perspective. End of story, right? And then you can then look at yourself that way, and challenge some of your ideas about how things are actually fitting together. Is it correct? And if it is, then okay, then maybe you can try to work with the person some more. But if your things are not holding together, then you can start to work with it and start to think it through. Are you coming from a place that is centered and based on love, right? Is what you're doing, is it based on love? Are you in a good place when you're interacting with that person, and this whole thing starts, right? If you are, then it might be the other person who's generating the drama, right? So that's always a possibility, right? That you might be that you are the one who's in a good place, but it may also be a possibility that you're the one who's not in a good place, and like myself, you might be stepping into an alternate version of you without noticing the change. You can be this positive centered person and somehow get shifted or drift or something like that by not paying attention or being aware, slipping into old habits that are generally innocent-ish, not necessarily the best, but you like them anyway. That's your indulgence, and that can pull in more negative stuff and take you into that perspective, the old perspective, right? So maybe hanging out with people who are not the best influences or something like that, right? Whatever the case may be, you can shift from positive Paul to negative Paul, right? And not notice. And then if you're shifted over to negative Paul and interacting with someone that you love, then maybe you are coming from a place that's not great, and maybe you were maybe you weren't exactly coming from a good place, and you weren't in the right. So that shifting perspective allows me to work through things and figure it out, like, oh, she was right all along. Okay, I got some work to do here, right? And own up to it from there.
Yeah,
right?
you said it's not gonna be easy to say how you shifted. Or maybe we can cover piece by piece in the future. But I am curious. I know what you do. Based on what you've been doing, and so I have some idea. But
you know what I do? Oh no!
But it was very dramatical change, right? Going into that negative space, and then not knowing, not being aware, that hasn't been happening recently, right?
No.
So I know it's because of the car accident, because it was pretty big. So that triggered it, but it has been, you've been catching yourself and staying aware, even you are carrying some stuff, you are aware. So it was helping, and this time it was fun, and then you're not aware at all, and it's just like, stomach, where's the stomach? She's ending this world, and she's not helping me to put pieces together. It's falling apart, and she's walking away. Where is she? Kind of thing. And and I'm not exaggerating, just so you know. And that into this, right? It just I wouldn't say overnight. There's maybe one better day, and then next day is back. You're back.
Yeah, it was. I
Right.
had a better day, and then there was all.
Yeah.
And part of the healing was also helped by meditation as well. It helped it along through the whole thing, but it was important to grieve, to let myself grieve.
So like talking to
Yeah.
whoever that was
Mhm.
was helping.
Mhm.
It helped, right?
Mhm.
So if you have someone to talk to, like someone someone who you feel safe, I
Mhm.
guess, and then like us talking, it didn't help at that moment. It
Mhm.
didn't help, so you want to find someone else,
Mhm.
and then you find something that you didn't even know that you were carrying, that which was grief,
Mhm.
right? By just talking through, and you,
Mhm.
I'm grieving,
Mhm.
right? So talking to someone that's always healthy, and if you know that someone's need a little talk, you can be the listener who can offer the space for them to talk, right? Because listening is really, really powerful tool. So yeah, that can help changing perspective.
So I think what we did cover this in that process. This point I wanted to make, because fights are learning opportunities. They're not welcome. Nobody asked for them, but they're there. And so it's an opportunity for us to challenge our perspective, the one that we came into the fight with.
Yeah,
right?
and then like the key word is being curious, right? Why he is saying this? Why he is acting like this? Instead of like why is have to say this to me, and instead of being angry and frustrated, again I guess stepping back required to do this, but just be curious, why, right? And then so curious, it's kind of magical.
There's a difference there between suspicious.
Yeah.
Why is that person like that? And curious.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Just
No,
simply.
really. Why is a person like that?
Drop everything, all your emotion, all their emotion, and just why. I'm just curious, right? This is really, really it's powerful. It sounds very light, like being curious sounds very light and like the fun, experimental or whatever. But for healing and for relationship, being curious, this is one of the most powerful things that you can use.
Might do another episode on that, because that you're really good at that. That's something you taught me about. I learned suspicion.
And then suspicious and being right.
Yes.
So that's why
I learned that heavy stuff growing up, but you have this thing where you just being curious and just asking questions and just, where does it lead? That was a whole beautiful thing that I learned from you. I'll also just mention quickly here, hopefully we can do it some justice, but bad mood versus good mood. We touched on it a little bit there, right? Where's Paul coming from, right? So going back to that example, if I'm in a good mood, if I'm in my normal, authentic self, the world's wonderful, full of opportunity, full of possibility, wonder, all those beautiful things, a good time, right? seeing things for being funny, all that kind of stuff. But if you're in a bad mood, that very same world, that very same experience, that exact same day, if you were able to do like, you know, kind of like in Groundhog Day, like the Bill Murray movie, right? You have the same exact experience sequence. But if you're in a good mood versus bad mood, so if I was in the negative pole, it's a whole different thing. And that's what you're talking about, right? So it's like the world is turned upside down, and it's everything is negative and going downhill, and getting worse, right? So that's perspective, right? So is it really, you know, that the world is wonderful and cheery and rainbows and all that kind of stuff, or is it dark and evil and despairing, or is there something in between, right? That's not so ungrounded, like the rainbows everywhere, right? We don't see the world that way. When we're saying authentic, that means real, right? It's not just all rainbows and butterflies everywhere, right? All day long, and unicorns. It's real, and there's important work to do, right? But you can do it from your heart, and that's authentic, right? And based on love and the way you look and do things. Or, you know, if you're not centered, then it can go the other way, right? So that perspective is everything, and knowing that it's a perspective change, being aware that it's a perspective change, that and the power of it, how it changes absolutely everything. There's nothing in your whole experience of life that can't be completely transformed by a perspective change. Nothing.
So you know, you understand the perspective change, like being in a bad mood and good mood.
Yeah.
And you see that for yourself, that recent thing, like when you're in a bad mood, everything was falling apart, and you shifted, and it's same place and same life, and then nothing.
No, there's nobody did anything. You didn't change.
I wasn't the villain.
No.
You
go from zero to hero in one day, right? That's what's great about it.
I don't know. I was zero. It was like a minus 500 or something.
So
okay.
Yeah. So that's the power of it, right? Just like it's crazy, and that being able to step back, so climbing down, letting the emotions come down, settle down, just channel it in some healthy way, and then are you crying? How come you're crying? What's going on?
Just I'm glad that you see it. That I'm not the villain. Okay. So keep going.
Yeah, we covered this one, seeing things from another person's point of view. Paradoxes as learning opportunities. I don't know if we got to this, but just very quickly, and maybe we'll come back to this in another episode later. But when things don't add up, right? If it
but it all adds up for you when you're in a bad mood. Everything, like you listened, everything, it's all made sense to you.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know about that.
Well, this is not. I said it's not necessarily applicable to this situation. So, like the paradoxes, right? When we covered a lot of ground here. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this one justice. But when things just don't add up, it means you have to rise above it. You have to. I'm not explaining this very well, but if things don't come together, this seems true, that seems true, and they don't come together at all, and you don't get it. The only way that you can really bring those things together and create a cohesive understanding is by going up.
Mm-hmm.
and then looking over the whole situation,
Mm-hmm.
then you're changing your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then those things that seem like they were separate and you couldn't bring them together, they come right together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I hope that's a good enough explanation for now. But that's just another one part of it. You know, if you guys, if you're finding that this is hard, it's because of subconscious
Changing
beliefs, right?
perspective is
Yeah,
hard.
yeah. If it's hard to do that, to change your perspective, it's because it's a subconscious belief, right? If it's hard for me to see things from your point of view, right?
Because it's hard because if you let go of your hand, you're gonna fall down. So you can't.
That's what I'm terrified of.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
anymore. You can't do anything. I have to just stay here.
Yeah.
And, right.
Yeah.
And that's subconscious belief that
Yeah.
blocks and negative
Yeah.
program.
And there's lots of ways of different work. Well, just to make that very clear, I mean, when PTSD, you're traumatized, and so you grab onto anything for safety and for protection, and you will not let go of those things because they kept you protected.
Yeah.
So my suspicion kept me protected, right? So I have to be, what's Satomi up to, right? What is the deal? Why is she pulling away? Why is she making drama in the situation? That's my suspicion coming in, right? So that kept me protected when I was in a different situation, right? So I held on to that one, right? But if by going through the healing, the letting go of those subconscious beliefs, that I needed that as a protection because I didn't, then there's a special process for that we work with our Sakuso healing program that lets you let go of those subconscious beliefs, and then you're able to get past those blocking points. Because when I was in PTSD and I was really in it, I don't know how I could have healed from that except by going through Sakuso, right? Honestly, I had to shift the subconscious beliefs underneath it, and there was a lot of them in that case. Some people, it can be very simple and quick. For me, it was very complicated. There was a lot of different traumas, so I had a lot of different things I was holding on to keep myself safe, right?
And then because you've done so many shifts, and this time after car accident, you got triggered, but you were able to come out of it on your own without doing anything.
I didn't need to do anything really special about it.
You just have to attack me for a few days.
Of course, yeah.
That was enough.
It comes with the package. So and you can work through those with our program, and you can check out that program come through our website, scheduling a free breakthrough session, and we'd be happy to see you. We'll see you. Thanks for coming by here. You know, if you like this
thank you
session,
for the comments, everyone.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week right here on Aether Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for coming by.
Bye-bye.
Bless you.